Evening, council members. Thank you for coming. I called this workshop tonight as a result of discussions that we had after the budget review of the last salary ordinance. We've been approached by a few people, a few of our employees, and Council Lady Tillman asked about the deputy fire chief, correct? And so we looked at it and we decided to revisit this with the help of the sponsors, Councilman Bryant Dabney and Dolly Zegas, who, if I got it right, Councilman Dabney created the numbers. He did the spreadsheet. It's based on, am I right? Right, 75% of what was originally proposed across the board. Every position, what was originally proposed for that position, and what was originally proposed was per the salary study. The salary study numbers were used, and they were reduced. So now we are proposing 75% of what they were originally intended to be. And we just go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to Bryant now because he worked it up. So if you got any questions, you can call Bryant. But that's basically what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and just to add a quick note on the spreadsheet that was sent out, I had a little page break at the top. So anybody that had above the 75% in the first time around, obviously those would not be touched. We're not trying to bring them back down.
No.
To the 70, right? So they will stay.
No reductions, only increases.
Right. We had three. They're showing two on this spreadsheet, but one was taken off. But three people that were over the 75%. One at 98% of the proposal, and then here another one at 96% and 80%. So now we're trying to bring the rest of the salaried employees up to 75% of the salary study proposal. And so that's how the spreadsheet lays out. I had two copies of it here. One that was in color, and then one where I took the colors out. So I didn't get a chance to put the legends on to tell exactly what the colors are, but it's pretty self-explanatory how it all worked out previously. It actually gives what was the percentage raise after they received the certain dollars from the salary study. So we had some people as far as 96% of the salary study. And then we had someone down here as low as 11% of the salary study. So I just thought, I made that case the first time we went through the salary ordinance, that I thought it should be fair and equitable with all of our city employees. So that's why I was more than eager to sponsor this ordinance.
We had extensive discussion with Ms. Hoffmaster on it, and it was agreeable to both of you. Right. Now, I hope everybody got a copy of this. Okay, because otherwise we could get your copy right now, but it's kind of after the fact. We tried to get it to you a couple of days ahead so you could take a look at it. So do you have any questions about the numbers?
And I'll just make
Councilman Simmons, Councilman Mack, do you have any questions about the numbers?
No, I don't. I seen them when you guys sent them out, and I think Councilman Dabney did a great job. This is a process by which we should be doing it, just trying to be fair and equitable across the board, as opposed to choosing individuals to receive the raises. Good job, Dab.
Thank you. And just another quick note, Mayor, this proposal that we're looking at here tonight, the way these numbers are presented, would only be a $180,000 increase from what was awarded through the budget process. So, we worked very hard in our labor negotiations to take care of our police and fire through the contracts to make sure, we did some things to make sure they stay with us due to fair and equitable pay. And I feel the same about these salaried employees as well. So I think we're looking out for.
Well, I commend you on what you did. You and Council Lady Zegas, you did a good job, because we are under attack. We're under attack from other communities that want our people. We have good people, and we have to keep them. We have to keep them here. So I appreciate you considering this. I'm not looking to do a review on this like we did on the budget. and look at specific positions. To me, this is all or none. Do you feel that way?
Yes.
We approve it all, or we wait till the 2023 budget? Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question. So based off of the salaries that's been presented, and I also looked at in regards to your ordinance, you were requesting for this to go retro back to January 1st of 2022. Has it been considered how this will impact, or if any, impact this would be by going retro back to January 1st regarding the benefits and especially PERF? Because our benefits is at 25%. So if we're going retroactive,
Yep.
was that factored in as well?
Yeah, and go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we pay,
I apologize for Yvonne not being here. She had a minor medical procedure today.
sorry.
But Tamika and Mary Lynn,
The only, oh my gosh. With if we pay the retroactive pay, the PERF will automatically be calculated. And I don't know, and the benefits, obviously, we always received all, I don't know which other, but the big benefit would be PERF. We would get compensated, or the salaries would get compensated for PERF. Now you have to remember too, I just want to make sure that everybody realizes the original salaries that were originally in the salary order as proposed in the budget were budgeted numbers that we can afford. So we know as far as the budget, these numbers can be affordable. So if that's part of the question, I wasn't sure if that was part of the concern. Yes, we've taken that consideration, and we took that into consideration because it's still going to be less than what the original budget was proposed, which we determined that we could afford with the city funds.
And also, was these figures based on, or can we get a projection that we will have the funds to cover this extended out 10 years at least, if we increase these salaries?
Yes. I mean, 10 years would be tough. I mean,
I would even like if you can do it just for the next 5 years. And then if so, can it be broke down so that this finance can see exactly where these funds are coming from?
Correct. We can project the property tax revenues as best we can right now, based on probably history and projections. I mean, Yvonne probably would know a little bit more about that and how to project what the increase in our property tax settlements would be, and what we project to be increases in some of our miscellaneous revenue. Yep.
Would we be able to have that before the council meeting?
Probably not. I don't know. I don't know if I can guarantee that, but we can try.
Yes.
Because that's what's today, Tuesday. Yeah. We'll talk to Yvonne tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman, did you hit your mic? Oh, I thought Councilman Don Prisbinski had something.
I guess I just have a couple questions. We just got done with the budget process in November. We've just been through this, I'm just going to say, this battle that the council had with the administration and all the hard feelings that went along with it. And I know that even probably today, some employees are still upset on the way the council voted on this. So, to me, what we're doing is just opening up a can of worms here. And if this doesn't pass, then we're going to have hostility even ramped up even more. I don't know why we just don't continue on the way we have over the years with salaries and wait till the budget process comes in the fall, August. We're only talking 5 months. We're talking 5 months, and then we can start this discussion over again instead of starting it in March. And I know that the Councilman Dabney has every right to bring this ordinance up, but in my opinion, I don't see the necessity for it right now. We got the budget set. We got the salary set for the rest of the year. I think the salaries are equitable. for what the positions that the people do. Of course, anybody, if you say, hey, we're going to give you a raise, well, sure, everybody wants to get a raise. I understand that. I always wanted a raise too when I worked. Whether I deserved it or not, I always thought I should get a raise. And just like I said back in the budget hearings back in the fall, you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And I wasn't in favor of some of these astronomical raises, despite the salary study or not. You know, so that's just my take. So I guess my question is, you know, why are we doing it now? Why can't we just wait till the budget hearings and go through this process then, instead of opening up a can of worms and going through this process all over again and starting what I would probably see a animosity or a hostile workforce towards the city council members that don't favor what this ordinance has. And yeah, so that's my main concern. And not to say that in October, when the budget hearings come about, that, you know, we give raises then, just like we always do, instead of giving raises in March of the following year when we just had the budget passed in December. So that's my question.
Well, I certainly appreciate your position, but it's not really a matter of just 4 or 5 months. If this increase is approved, it'll be retroactive to the first of the year. And when we go through the next budget review, that's September, October, the new wages and salaries, when they go into effect, won't go into effect till January 1 of 2023. So we're talking a whole full year here. And I'm not at liberty to say, but I know that we've had several city employees approached by other communities because we're not competitive. And you're a working man like I am, like everybody else. If somebody throws $6,000 or $9,000 more on the table, $6,500 more a month. You know, loyalty is one thing, paying bills is another. So we're trying to do this to keep our workforce intact, keep the staff intact. I've said many times I feel gifted that I have a marvelous administration. They're competent, they're professional, they know what they're doing, and they care about the city. And I'm trying to keep that group intact. I don't. What's been done is done. I don't see the hostilities going any higher than they did initially when the cuts were made. We're just trying to level the playing field, so to speak. I know that term's used an awful lot, but I would really like to keep the people that we have. Councilman?
Yeah, just a real quick comment. Councilman President Linsky says, these wages are comparable. What was comparable was the actual salary study. That's what the salary study was all about, to show salaries of like-sized cities and other municipalities and things like that. So the salary study was actually what was equitable and comparable. So like you said, I had the right to bring this up, and you have the right to feel the way you do. But in my mind, I feel like it's time to take care of our city workers. And as we just talked about this, if we waited to another budget cycle, and if something did happen, that would not go into effect until next year. So the money was there when it was all budgeted at the very beginning. The money is still there. And like I said, this is only a $180,000 increase in terms of, the difference from the proposals that were made and passed by the city council versus what's here, using 75% of the salary study, not 100%, 75% of the proposed salary study raises. So that's the way I see it, as being fair and equitable with our workers. And I'll stand on it every single time that we have to vote for this. And once again, this is why my name is on the bottom of the list to sponsor.
And if I may, to address your concern, Council Lady Tillman, projecting 10 years out is really, really hard to do. None of this would have been done initially if we couldn't afford it. The future, no one thought that we would lose 60% of our revenues from Blue Chip in 2020. Now, Blue Chip, since then, they're still having employee issues. It can't get the people back to work, but the gamers are fully back and their revenues are what they were pre-pandemic. So as long as that continues, we don't get devastated somehow in that area, there's no problem affording this. The city has the revenues.
So I have three things. One is, so in in December, there was an executive order where it was put to the pay of the 26 pays to 27 pays. I'm just curious, since that was done under an executive order, was this considered to be done under an executive order?
Not as I stand here talking to you.
Excuse me?
I said not as I stand here talking to you.
Okay, and then the other.
It would be a different scenario though. If I did an executive order at the end of the year, it would be a lump sum to each employee, but it would not result in a permanently new salary level. It would be a one-time disbursement.
And then my other question is, that I wanted just to clarify. The comments or the communications or questions in regards to the salaries, my stance was not overall for all of the salaries that was listed in the amended ordinance that's going to be coming forth. My position was and question was in regards to the fire chief salary deputy, because the negotiations ended at the end of the budget, approval of the budget, and that put that position's salary, their subordinates was making, after the negotiations brought their salaries up, that put the subordinates over the salary of what the actual fire chief deputy was receiving. So how this spun out to where all of these other departments or positions were then brought forth, as it was said, Councilman Dabney has every right to do so, as he's done. So I just wanted to clarify my stance in regards to that. And that's what I'm in support of, is making sure that we correct that for the fire chief deputy. And then I think that's all. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more? Are there any questions or Councilman Simmons?
Yeah, question. Again, for clarification, this would all be retroactive back to first of the year. All of that is in this $180,000, include the $180,000 benefits and longevity and everything.
Yes, I'm getting a nod, yes.
Yeah. Because, I'm not coming into this with a closed mind. I'm just as open as I can be. And I want to be fair to all city employees. That's why I'm here. I had another question, but it just slipped me.
Well, if it comes back to you,
Yeah.
let me know.
I can answer that first question for him.
Sure, go ahead.
Because in the calculation of the spreadsheet, no, it was just strictly on dollars, Gene, that I calculated this. No, I didn't take and go find the longevity and other things like that. But this is strictly on dollars. But once again, longevity, all that, those other fringe benefits and everything like that was calculated into last year's budget based on 100% of the the salary study proposal. And this, once again, is 75% of the proposed raises. So no, that $180,000 difference right there is strictly dollars. And no, I didn't go back and was able to calculate things like the French benefits and that. So did that clarify the question?
That does.
Okay.
You know, I know we're in a competitive situation with other municipalities, and true, we are losing employees. It's who can offer the most. That's my only comment.
But let me assure you, Councilman, that we're not being held hostage by the employees. We brought this out to make us competitive, but I can't lock the door to keep employees in. There still may be more money out there that they would go to. But if anyone leaves Michigan City, when they leave, our employment, the door closes behind them. I'm talking the administration, because I'm not going to play a bidding war to keep people here. We're going to do the best we can for everyone, and I hope they stay. If they leave, then I hope they're happy where they go, because their position will be filled and we will move forward.
Understandably so.
I just two last things for me, and that is, if I may address Ms. Mary Lynn, and that is, if you can just reconfirm with me. So the 2022 budget that the city finance passed and the council passed was already submitted to state for those actual dollars. So are you saying then that there was additional, or did it increase after it was submitted to cover these fundings? Because we approved a set dollar amount.
No, when we worked up the budget numbers, and we presented them to you, and we advertised, that was at the full 100% of what the mayor proposed. Then during the finance committee, cut the salary, okay, and make sure that you realize that all the hourly people, they accepted, you gratefully, approved all of their increases, which range, some of them were substantial percentage increases. But the budget that we presented to you was balanced, and we could afford, as Brian said, 100% of, and so it was the finance committee that then cut the budget. So the final budget that was finally approved, the salaried employees, their salaries were cut. Does that make sense? Yeah, you did cut the salaries, but you didn't cut the, but yeah, correct. The budget wasn't cut. You're right. Okay, I see what, yeah, the budget was not cut. You just changed the salary order to cut, to change the salaries, but the budget was never reduced.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Doug Lagoa, Michigan City Fire Chief. I appreciate Councilman Gene Simmons saying that he's keeping an open mind. I keep hearing fair and equitable raises. So I'd like to ask you the question. You can answer this, you don't have to answer it out loud, but do you feel, or can you answer the question to, is it fair and equitable when raises were given? I'm looking at the numbers here. I had them in my head, but I believe I'm right, spot on, to where you gave a certain individual a 1% raise, and this is overall compared to their salary, and the actual percentage raise received 1%, and then I see somebody received a 33% raise. So basically my question is, can you truly say it was fair and equitable raises? If anybody wants to answer, that's fine.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, sir.
Absolutely, because there was not a flat increase proposed across every position. So there were a range. There was a range of increases that were proposed to the council. So we took that and we looked at them, and we looked at the position, the duties of the positions, and what the current salary was and what the proposed salary was, and we made the adjustments accordingly. One thing, a comment I did want to make, this seems to be nothing more than, in my opinion, and I'm gonna keep it at my opinion, a lame attempt of weak positioned council members and the administration to undermine the work of the finance committee that we did last year and the will of the majority of the council who already passed this budget back in October or November when we did it. So it's not about the salaries, it's not about the increases, it's about us doing it incrementally and what's more equitable for the city as a whole, and not trying to do all of these gigantic increases at once. You know, we put an ordinance in place to limit the amount of operational funds that could be used out of the riverboat money. And it was decided by the council that we shouldn't do the large increase that was proposed, and we decided to do that incrementally as well. So this is nothing more than the incremental process. And if we retroactive go back to January instead of waiting until the actual budget process when we can do it the proper way, what are we accomplishing? We just wasted all the time we took last year when we made sure that we gave everyone their departmental operating budgets so they could run the city efficiently. But it looks like everybody's just making an attempt to line their own pockets, and that's more important to them. And as far as the administration goes, I appreciate what the mayor said. We're not going to lock the door for anybody to stay in. And if anybody wants to go, they're going to go anyway. I don't care if you give them 5,000 or 10,000. If they think they got a better opportunity with less workload or less duties, they'll go anyway. And we've just went through all of this for nothing. So I'm going to leave it at that. And those are my 2 cents.
I'd like to state also, I appreciate Councilwoman Tillman. And we started this process a while back, and I appreciate your work on this to get, basically it started because what happened was due to the contract, which I thank you again for that, for the firefighters, great contract. I now have a deputy chief's position that is paid less than, I believe, 5 people that he supervises. So that's what started this, I believe, at least between the fire department and the city. So I appreciate you looking into that, and hopefully we can get that fixed. But I do also agree with the mayor that it should go citywide, because that's what happened. I brought it out. I spoke on it back before you voted on the salary ordinance, that I stated a lot of this here, that it was creating problems, you know, because it was such a wide range of salary increases. You know, it went from, like I stated, 1% up to 20. I thought it was 26%, but one shows here 33%. So there's just a huge difference there. And if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel, but it's not fair and equitable. Thank you.
Okay, the largest increase, the smallest increase was 1%. If I remember correctly, it was for the city attorney who was already making excess of $90,000. So if you're looking at someone that makes that amount and then try to compare that to someone that makes $27,000 for a position that is normally paid $40,000+, it's absolutely, and I'll say it again, absolutely fair and equitable that way.
According to the chart, you are correct with the 1% increase. The 33% increase was a position of almost 42,000. So that's the numbers I have in front of me, Councilman Fitzpatrick.
And if I may, and that also is taken into consideration regarding the study, because there are classifications. You have your comments, you have your pets, you have your executives, you have your SOs. So that also plays a factor in the pay scale. And that's why you would see the difference as well. You may have an administrative 1 or an administrative 2. So those categories also plays a factor in deriving at those numbers.
Councilman Dabney, if could you answer a question for me? That when the salary study was done originally, wasn't the job duties of each department in relationship to each other, especially, and to other communities that do the same or similar tasks, weren't those included in these salary increases in the beginning when it was 100%? And what we're actually asking for now is, not the 100% of those numbers that had already been taken into consideration of, what they should be based on their job duties. I hope I made that question kind of clear.
Yeah, and the way it was presented to me, the salary study looks at our positions, looks at job duties, and compares those to other places with the same titles, same job duties, and then they arrived at these positions, based on responsibilities and the different positions that were held. So all of that.
They weren't just giving a 30% increase to everybody. They gave incremental increases based on those studies and those job behaviors, right?
That's exactly the way it was presented to me. Yes.
Exactly. Okay. So the incremental
that was already baked into the cake before.
Absolutely. Right.
And with that being said, if I can add on to that, and I don't know if anyone else took the time or even cared, but I do. So what I did was I took the job descriptions and reclassifications, and I compared the 2019 to presently. And I pretty much got through every job description. Asked and looked to see how much actually changed. Nothing. The only thing that changed was some of the language, semantics, tomatoes. Same job duties. Not too many of the job description enhance their responsibilities or duties.
But and I don't want to, but that wasn't the point. Was comparing what we actually maybe have done for even the last couple of years, comparing that on what we should be being paid, or a salaried employee should be paid currently. That was the idea of the salary study. Not that I understand what you're saying, that sometimes you should get an increase in pay if your job duties have substantially changed. I agree with that. This study was showing how we were not paying some of our employees where we should be paying based on their current job duties. That may have been the same for the last 3 years, but at the present time, they were being paid a lot lower than what some of the counterparts were being paid in other communities, just to compare their existing job duties.
And I understand that, but what I'm saying is also, as far as their economy in, let's say, Porter County, their cost of living, their economics is higher than Michigan City's. So with that being said, but their job descriptions and responsibilities may entail more duties and responsibilities to warrant why they have a higher pay than what we show. I totally understand what you're saying, but that is something to factor in and to take into consideration.
I just think the whole idea with the study was we were just trying to get an unbiased document and just to get some support so that it wasn't just the administration and the human resources coming up with their own numbers. And once again, we were just trying to be using that same document and applying it to every city employee, whether you are hourly or salaried. And now what seems to have happened is that, okay, now, we're just trying to then say, okay, let's give everybody a partial increase, fair to everybody across the board, not just like the arborist and not just the assistant chiefs. So that was just the whole idea behind trying to keep it equitable among all the salaried employees.
And then the one last thing, and I don't know if I can address this to Councilman Dabney, in regards to the ordinance, the amended ordinance, and it lists in the whereas all of the interests of the city, interests for the annual salaries, you have the following positions. And so I looked at that and I compared to what is actually listed, unless I'm overlooking it. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm looking at all of the positions that you've listed. You do have on here the deputy clerk, but when you look at the actual biweekly salaries and everything, that is not listed on here.
Well, I didn't handwrite the ordinance, but since you pointed that out, we can definitely go back and add that to the ordinance and make sure that everybody's covered. Because it has not officially been put out. We have to make the deadline by noon tomorrow in order for it to make the next agenda. So thanks for pointing that out, and we'll get another review on this in the morning.
Thank you.
Make sure we add everybody.
Yeah, I have a question. This grant writer position, why do we need a grant writer? Why can't we contract a grant writer out so that when we need a grant writer, we can pay them? When we don't need them, we don't have to pay them. We don't have to pay benefits. We don't have to pay a pension. We don't have to pay a salary. We did the same thing at the sanitary district when I was on the lead committee. They were looking at grants, and the sanitary district hired a grant writer to come in and investigate grants and try to write and get money for that project. I don't see what the need is. Possibly you can explain what the need is, or Councilman Dabney can explain why we need to have a position of $47,000 for a grant writer. And then when they're not writing grants or investigating grants, because I don't think they'll do that every day of the week. I could be wrong. I'm not a grant writer. But, what else are they going to be doing? I don't want to hire somebody that's going to be doing 50% grant writing. Then, oh, by the way, we need somebody to run the baseball league. So you're going to run the baseball league this summer too. So can you explain why we need or somebody explain why we need a grant writer?
I'll just, Councilman, I'll give it to you from my perspective that there are hundreds, probably thousands of grants out there that are available. The sanitary district hired a grant writer to apply for a large grant for that group. But the majority of the time is not spent writing grants. It's researching them because there's so many of them out there. The performance of Shannon Easton in the park department, Shannon's gotten so many grants because she hunts for them, and it's a time-consuming job. It's an extremely valuable job for the city to be able to spend its money wisely and make it last as far as it can. We definitely need a grant writer. There's so many grants that we're missing out on because we don't have someone to search them out and go after them. The grant writer is an incredibly important position.
So
Yeah, a question to that point. If I may, if the assistant park superintendent has all this time to seek out and get these grants while being a full-time assistant park superintendent, why can't the duties of grant writer be transferred to whatever other department is seeking said grants at said time? Thank you.
Well, if I understand that right, that's a good question. I think that my goal when I came into office was eventually to have specialists that did jobs for the entire city. A contracts administrator that would write contracts. Every contract would be generated by that individual, whether it's a park department contract, a sanitary district, a water department, because they're a specialist in what they do. So you're going to get maximum value out of that. Now, I'm going to bounce off of what you just said, Councilman Fitzpatrick, and go back to the comment that you made about the budget review. I didn't call this workshop to dispute the 2022 budget. We did that earlier, and we did that last year. I didn't call it. But your choice of talking about the attorney was a poor choice. It was a poor choice. Ms. LePage Stallbrink spends at least 32 hours a week in the office. You find me an attorney that makes less than $130,000, $150,000 a year. She spends at least 32 hours a week in the office. She's here all the time. And let me back up a couple of years. In previous administrations, the city had 2 attorneys. They had John Espar and they had Miss LePage Solbrick. Right now, since I've been in office, she's been doing the job of 2 attorneys. So now we hope in the future to be able to do a better job. And what I mean by a better job is it's our goal to get performance evaluations in. Because what Council Lady Tillman said about you have job duties and you have different people assigned to these job duties. You have one person that will go 100%. And have another person on same job duties will only go 50%. Performance evaluations will correct that. And raises will be given accordingly. And the people that don't get the raises won't get them because they're not doing their jobs and they will leave. But we're classifying this thing incorrectly.
Okay.
We're trying to keep the good people here. And as we go through time, we are going to refine our employee evaluation and rewarding process to where there won't be disputes like this. The people that get the raises will be 100% justified in getting those raises.
If I may jump in real quick, I understand what you're saying about the about the corporate attorney, and I was just making the point to the numbers that Chief Legault was putting out there, and I do appreciate the idea of specialized grant writing. So, and a senior a specific individual who all he does is grant writing, does the grant writing for the city as a whole. I like that idea too. And the performance rating, that will probably be the best way overall. And I would like to ask you this: is it possible to have maybe an executive session with the council and administration to discuss the specific individuals or positions that you are trying to retain with this increase? So maybe we'll have a better insight as to what's actually going on versus just looking at numbers on the paper and not really having a full understanding of what it is that you're trying to do your job to, make sure the city is running efficiently.
I agree with you. Absolutely. We should get together because we all care about good government. The only position I didn't address is I also intend to have a construction inspector, not code compliance, because they're 2 different animals. Construction inspector is a jack of all trades, master of none. He knows electrical, he knows plumbing, he knows HVAC, and he would oversee construction work for the city that was done for any and every department. Good example, the North Point Pavilion, which is a disaster in my opinion. It was illy designed. It hasn't functioned the way it was supposed to. If we'd had to walk underneath the second deck and look, well, it may have been fixed because I think Superintendent Shin got a painter out there, but that thing hasn't been there 10 years. And all the structural steel on the underside of the upper level is rusted. It was. You walked up the stair tower and every riser, which is a vertical portion of a step, was rusted. That all boils down to preparation, surface preparation. You prepare the surface correctly and the paint lasts as long as it can possibly last. And it wasn't because we didn't have an inspector. The city's never had an inspector. They award a contract and say, call us when it's done. That's not how you do things. And that's another long-range goal, because I want to get as much bang out of every buck as I can, and that's the way you do it with professionals doing the job. So I think that's a great idea. Let's sit down and talk about the future. Talk about future jobs, specialty type positions. Michigan City will be the entity at the table that will benefit. Thanks.
I have a comment,
Oh.
and this is regarding a question that was asked earlier by Councilwoman Tillman, and I totally blew this. She asked me why wasn't the deputy clerk included in the ordinance? It wasn't written incorrectly. That's because the first time around, the deputy clerk received 80% of the proposed raise, above 75%. So that's why that's money away. Yes, so we're not taking money away from that. That's why that position is not in the ordinance, because they received above the 75% that we're looking at giving to the other city employees. But I just wanted to address that and clear that up. I'm sitting here with highlighted, and just want to apologize to the attorney that wrote it. It was correct in the fact that since they received more than the 75% already, they received 80%, was not included. Just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, just going back to my comment about the grant writer, and getting back to the question is why can't we contract that out instead of hiring a full-time position where we have to pay benefits, a pension? Why can't we investigate outsourcing that to a contractor first instead of hiring right away, have to hire somebody to work in City Hall to be a grant writer?
Well, certainly we can investigate that, but what we should need to do before we investigate it is do our own research at how many grants are available. If there's enough grants available, which I believe there are, to keep a grant writer working 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, then we're going to pay more if we contract it out, because who we contract it with they're going to carry the overhead and they're going to have profit in there.
So before we approve this grant writer, then we should find out how many grants are out in the public for us to capitalize on and to get money from before we hire this position, is basically what you're saying. Is that we should find out first how many grants are out there before we would hire a contractor. That's the way I understood what your answer is. Correct?
Well, I'm not an expert in it. I'll tell you what, why don't you and I champion that? We'll do that together.
No,
we'll research.
You can.
I don't have time to do it because it's very time consuming.
Well, I asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
You gave me the answer.
Yes, I did.
That we need to find out how many grants are out there. I'm not going to sit down and see how many grants are out in the United States and how much money we can receive off of those grants. I don't get paid to do that. That's not my job. I'm asking the administration because the administration is asking us, the city council, to appropriate the money to hire this person. So do we need a full-time person or can we outsource it? That's my question. And I would like before we vote on this, I would like to know how much it would cost to outsource a contractor to be a grant writer for us, or what companies can do that. That's what I'd like to know.
Well, you asked me what would be a better deal for the city. And my position is it would be better to hire a grant writer. That's my question.
What my question is let's find out how much a contracted grant writer would cost the city versus hiring a grant writer. That's my question. And come back with a couple proposals from grant writers to see how much it would cost the city. Is it going to cost us $60,000 to hire a grant writer? Or do they just get paid on a percentage of the grants that they bring in? If they bring in $1 million, they get paid $60,000 a year. I'm pretty sure that's the way that.
Well, I'm not sure. I'd have to investigate that. I'll take a look into it.
That's what I want the administration to investigate, whether it's better for the city to hire a full-time person. Now, all we have here is a salary, $46,000 for a grant writer. But what we don't have here is the benefit package and the pension package of what it's going to cost this individual. And for the controller's office, if I may ask a question that I would like to have before the council meeting, is what the benefits are going to cost and what the pension's going to cost for a grant writer. The full cost of hiring that person. Thank you. Thank you. And then just one more question, because as Fire Chief Legault alluded to, and Councilwoman Tillman and the Finance Committee. The way I understood, this all started with the fire deputy chief being underpaid, what his other subordinates are getting. Okay. And I understand that. Don't have no problem with that. All right. I guess what I have a problem with is, and the way I understood the opening statement is that, you know, it's either all or none. Is that the way I understand this ordinance? That it's either all or none? So that if we do not approve this ordinance, then this fire deputy chief won't be getting his rightly due raise that he should be, okay, if we vote it down. And that's what I don't want to happen here. Okay, if the council, and I don't know which way I'm going to vote, but whichever way the council votes, if we vote for it, fine. But if we vote it down, I don't want to be voting down the raise for this deputy fire chief. Is that understood? Yeah, okay. So I'm just, is that the gist of this ordinance, that if we vote this down, that deputy fire chief, I'm thinking that deputy fire chief should be taken out of there, and that should be a whole separate ordinance with the danger of possibly this gentleman not getting what, or not gentleman, but whoever this person is, that position is not getting the correct due pay that I think this whole subject started on to begin with.
So fix one and throw the rest overboard. Okay, I can rock with that.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you very much. Workshop adjourned. Have a good evening.